My beloved child, this is not a coincidence, and this is not just another moment passing through your day. Before time began to move the way you know it, before your questions formed words, a decree was released in the spirit realm with precision, authority, and intention, and your name was written on it. Not figuratively, not symbolically. Your name. A time decree, issued from a realm that does not guess, does not delay, and does not forget. And tonight, you are hearing this because heaven has allowed an intersection. This message found you because the clock attached to that decree is already moving. There are decrees that wait patiently, and there are decrees that are assigned a window. This one carries a time step. It was not sent to frighten you, but to awaken you. In the unseen realm, time does not stretch endlessly the way humans assume. There are seasons that open, moments that align, and doors that remain unlocked only briefly. When those moments pass, the decree does not disappear, but its expression changes. That is why this message feels urgent in your spirit even if you cannot explain why. Something inside you already knows this is serious. In the spirit realm, Archangel Michael does not move without instruction. He does not draw his sword without cause. He does not stand guard over empty words. When a decree is released that involves protection, correction, redirection, or preservation, he is assigned not only to enforce it but to watch its timing. And hear this carefully. When Michael is sent as a watcher of time, it means the decree carries consequences if ignored. Not punishment, but expiration of access. Heaven will not force alignment. Heaven announces, invites, and waits. You may have felt unusual pressure lately. A strange sense that something needs to change, but you cannot name what. Moments of silence where your thoughts feel heavier than usual. Delays that do not make sense. Interruptions that feel intentional. These are not random emotional fluctuations. They are symptoms of a decree brushing against your awareness. When heaven issues a timed word, it often stirs discomfort before clarity. Not to confuse you, but to pull your attention upward. This decree was not issued because you are behind. It was issued because you are approaching a junction. A crossing point where one decision leads into alignment and another leads into extended delay. Heaven does not warn without reason. The spirit realm does not send notifications for entertainment. And your presence here right now is evidence that the decree has not expired yet. But it is also evidence that the margin is narrow. There are people who will see this message too late. Not because they were rejected, but because they were distracted. Time in the spirit realm is sensitive to agreement. A decree requires recognition on earth to fully activate. Silence does not cancel it, but silence can stall it until the window closes. That is why this moment matters. This is not about watching a video. This is about responding to an announcement. Archangel Michael is known as the commander of heavenly hosts, but he is also known as the guardian of divine order. Order includes timing. When things drift out of sequence, he is sent to restore alignment. And when he stands at the intersection of your life and a decree, it means something was about to go out of order if no response came. Heaven intervenes before collapse, not after. That is mercy speaking. You may be wondering what this decree involves. Is it about your future, your household, your direction, your safety, your calling? The answer is yes, but not in the way you expect. This decree is not about adding something new as much as preserving something critical. There are moments when heaven acts to prevent loss that has not yet happened. Moments when protection is issued before danger becomes visible. Moments when correction arrives before consequences manifest. This decree belongs to that category. What makes this moment rare is not the decree itself, but the timing of your awareness. Many decrees are activated without conscious recognition. This one is different. This one requires your attention. It requires agreement. It requires a shift in posture, from passive observation to spiritual response. That is why this message carries weight. You were meant to hear it while there is still time to act. Do not minimize the fact that you are here. Do not explain it away as curiosity or chance. In the spirit realm, nothing travels without assignment. Even interruptions are orchestrated. Especially this one. There are names written on decrees that never get acknowledged. There are warnings that echo unanswered. But there are also moments like this, where heaven pauses just long enough for you to notice. Right now, Archangel Michael is not standing against you. He is standing for you, guarding the decree, holding the line, waiting to see if recognition will meet release. The clock is not stopped, but it has slowed just enough for you to hear this. That alone should tell you how significant this moment is. This decree did not come to overwhelm you. It came to position you. It came to realign you with a timeline that was already designed for your good. But alignment is always a choice. Heaven will not force your hand. It will simply present the truth and honor your response. And now that you have heard this, you are no longer unaware. Awareness itself is the first activation. The fact that your spirit feels stirred right now is not emotional manipulation. It is resonance. Something eternal is brushing against something temporal. And the window, though still open, will not remain open indefinitely. This is the moment where hearing becomes responsibility. And responsibility, when accepted, becomes protection. My dear one, there is a reason this message reached you at this exact moment and not yesterday, not last week, and not at some distant time in the future. In the spirit realm, timing is never accidental. Heaven does not send signals randomly, and Archangel Michael does not stand at attention without a precise command. The reason this message located you now is because your life has entered a narrow intersection where divine timing and human awareness are meant to meet. Many people believe that divine help arrives only when life collapses, but that is not how heaven operates. Heaven moves ahead of visible outcomes. It speaks before events unfold. It warns before shifts become irreversible. What you are experiencing right now is not a reaction from heaven. It is a preemptive alignment. The decree was not released because something already went wrong. It was released because something was about to change, and heaven wanted your agreement before that change fully manifested. There are seasons when prayers are answered quietly, and there are seasons when heaven interrupts loudly. This is an interruption season. Not because you failed, but because you are nearing a turning point. You may have sensed this in subtle ways, decisions feeling heavier than usual, familiar paths no longer feeling right, or an inner urgency that you cannot explain. These are not emotional fluctuations. These are indicators that a timeline is shifting. Archangel Michael is often associated with warfare, but his role goes far beyond visible battles. He is a guardian of divine justice and divine sequence. When timelines drift, he is assigned to correct alignment. When moments carry weight, he is sent to oversee them. That is why this message carries such precision. It is not vague encouragement. It is a notice of timing. You did not stumble into this message because you were searching. You were guided here because your spirit was already in motion. Long before your mind caught up, your spirit recognized that something was approaching. Heaven responds to spiritual readiness before intellectual understanding. That is why some people can hear the same words and feel nothing, while others feel their inner world shift. Recognition is not learned. It is remembered. This decree requires response, not because heaven demands effort, but because agreement on earth activates movement in the unseen realm. A decree without agreement remains pending, not cancelled but waiting. And waiting has a limit when the decree is timed. This is where many people misunderstand divine processes. They assume silence equals safety. But silence can also mean delay. Heaven is patient, but it is also ordered. You may be wondering why heaven does not simply act without your involvement. The answer is authority. Authority on earth has been entrusted to human agreement. When heaven speaks, it looks for resonance. When resonance occurs, power flows. When resonance is absent, heaven pauses. This pause is not rejection. It is respect for divine order. That is why this message is reaching you now. Because the window is open, and your agreement matters. Not later. Not eventually. Now. Awareness is the first step, but response is the second. And response does not always mean action in the physical sense. Sometimes it means attention. Sometimes it means alignment. Sometimes it means allowing your posture to shift from passive to receptive. As you listen, something else is happening that you may not realize. The moment you acknowledge that this message applies to you, the decree begins to stir. Recognition is not neutral. It activates movement. That is why heaven often sends messages through unexpected channels. It bypasses resistance and speaks directly to awareness. This is also why it is important not to keep this moment to yourself. When a message carries timing, sharing it becomes part of alignment. Liking, commenting, and engaging is not about a platform. It is about agreement. When you interact, you are signaling recognition. When you share, you are extending the window for someone else who may be running out of time. And when you choose to stay connected, by subscribing, by supporting, by standing with this mission, you are aligning yourself with the flow rather than resisting it. There are people connected to you through family lines, influence, or unseen responsibility, who are affected by your alignment. Heaven often moves through one to protect many. That is why your response matters more than you think. This is not isolated. It is layered. Archangel Michael does not announce decrees to create pressure. He announces them to create order. Order brings peace. Confusion brings delay. And clarity brings movement. Right now, clarity is being offered. The confusion you felt before was not because you lacked direction, but because direction had not yet been revealed. Revelation always comes when the moment is right. Pay attention to what is settling in your spirit as you hear this. Not the noise of thoughts, but the quiet sense of knowing beneath them. That is where alignment happens. That is where the decree finds its echo. There is more you need to understand about why timing matters and what happens when agreement is delayed. What you are about to hear carries insight that many people never receive until after the window has closed. So take a breath. Stay attentive, because this is where everything begins to make sense. Beloved one, to understand what is happening around you right now, you must first understand what a time decree truly is in the spirit realm. A decree is not a wish. It is not a hub. It is not a prayer still waiting for an answer. A decree is a concluded decision made in heaven, sealed with authority, and released with expectation. When a decree is issued, it means heaven has already agreed. What remains is earthly alignment. In the spirit realm, decrees are written with precision. They are not vague statements floating in the air. They are assignments, often carried as scrolls, sealed with purpose, and released at appointed times. Some decrees are generational. Some are situational. And some, like the one connected to you, are timed. That means they are attached to a specific season, a specific window, and a specific moment of response. A time decree exists because what it protects, corrects, or releases cannot wait indefinitely. Heaven understands sequence. There are moments when delay causes unnecessary loss, and moments when immediate alignment preserves what matters most. That is when a time decree is released. It is heaven's way of saying, "This matters now." Archangel Michael is often present when such decrees are activated, not because of fear, but because of authority. He is assigned to decrees that involve protection, preservation, and divine order. When timing is critical, his presence ensures enforcement. He stands not only as a warrior, but as a guardian of what must not be violated by delay. Many people assume that heaven's decisions are automatic on earth. They are not. Heaven releases, earth responds. When earth responds, heaven moves. This is the law of agreement. A decree waits for resonance. A resonance happens when awareness meets acceptance. What makes a time decree different from other spiritual instructions is that it carries an expiration of access. The decree itself does not disappear, but the form in which it manifests can change. What could have been smooth becomes delayed. What could have been protected becomes vulnerable. What could have been corrected gently becomes harder to realign later. This is not punishment. It is consequence of timing. You may be realizing now why this message feels heavier than ordinary encouragement. It is not meant to inspire only. It is meant to position. The discomfort you may feel is not fear. It is gravity. Time moments carry weight. In the unseen realm, time is not counted in minutes the way humans count it. It is measured in readiness, alignment, and response. When readiness meets response, the decree activates. When readiness meets hesitation, the window begins to narrow. That is why some people sense urgency without knowing why. Your spirit recognizes timing before their mind does. This decree carries your name because it involves your jurisdiction. It involves what you are responsible for, even if you are not fully aware of it yet. Heaven does not assign names lightly. Names represent authority. When your name is written, it means you are the one authorized to respond. Archangel Michael does not enforce decrees that have no opposition. His presence indicates that something valuable is being guarded. This decree is not small. It concerns alignment that affects more than one outcome in your life. That is why recognition is happening now. Do not mistake this for pressure. Pressure comes from fear. This comes from invitation. Heaven is inviting you into alignment before misalignment creates unnecessary complexity. You are being given awareness ahead of outcome. That is grace. There are many who live their lives unaware of the decrees that pass over them. They adjust only after consequences appear. But there are also moments when heaven interrupts early. This is one of those moments. You are being given insight that many only receive in hindsight. Let this settle in your spirit, not as anxiety but as clarity. A time decree has been issued. You have become aware within the window. That alone is significant. And now, because awareness has been granted, a response is being invited. Not rushed, not forced, but intentional. As a sign of agreement and recognition, speak this with faith and expectation. Type "I received divine timing" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 717 has just been released. The word you are hearing right now is not meant to stop with you. Light multiplies when it is shared, and oil flows where vessels are willing. I am speaking to those who feel a quiet pull to help carry this message further, because every seed sown into God's work becomes a harvest in someone else's life. Scripture declares that when you cast your bread upon the waters, it returns in its appointed season, and this is one of those seasons. As I speak, I sense this invitation is personal, an opening for you to respond as part of the decree, not outside of it. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are fueling a river of revelation meant to reach those still running out of time. Heaven honors obedience that moves swiftly, and I release blessing over every seed sown in alignment with this word. Step into it now, and let your response become part of what God is activating in this hour. Beloved one, when a time decree is active, it leaves traces. Heaven does not move silently without leaving indicators along the path. These signs are not always dramatic, and they are rarely obvious to the natural mind, but to the attentive spirit, they are unmistakable. The challenge is that many people dismiss these signals because they do not look the way they expect divine communication to look. Yet, when a decree is active, the atmosphere around a person subtly shifts. One of the first signs is an unexplainable restlessness. Not anxiety, but a gentle internal stirring that refuses to let you remain comfortable where you are. You may find yourself questioning routines that once felt normal. Conversations that once satisfied you now feel shallow. Familiar paths suddenly feel incomplete. This is not dissatisfaction with life. It is alignment trying to adjust your posture. When heaven moves, it often disturbs comfort before it reveals clarity. Another sign is heightened sensitivity to timing. You begin noticing delays more than usual, or you feel an internal nudge when things do not move as expected. This is not frustration. It is awareness sharpening. A time decree tunes your perception to sequence. You become aware that certain things cannot be rushed, while others cannot be postponed. This awareness is not learned. It is activated. You may also notice repetition. Certain thoughts return persistent. Certain words stand out when you hear them. Certain ideas resurface no matter how many times you set them aside. This is not obsession. It is emphasis. Heaven repeats what must not be ignored. When Archangel Michael is overseeing a decree, repetition is often used to anchor awareness. He does not shout, he reinforces. Another indicator is interruption. Plans shift. Schedules change. Doors that seemed stable pause unexpectedly. These interruptions are not meant to frustrate you but to slow you just enough for alignment to occur. Heaven sometimes disrupts momentum to prevent misalignment from gaining speed. What feels like delay can actually be protection in disguise. Emotional responses may also change. You might feel unusually reflective, or moments of stillness may feel heavier than before. Silence may feel louder. This is because your inner world is becoming more receptive. Time decrees often require internal adjustment before external movement. Heaven prepares the vessel before pouring the oil. Dreams and inner impressions may become more vivid or more symbolic. You may not remember every detail, but you wake with a sense that something meaningful occurred. This is not random imagination. When timing is involved, the spirit often communicates through impressions rather than words. Your conscious mind may lag behind, but your spirit understands. Another sign is resistance that appears without clear origin. Distractions increase. Procrastination feels heavier. Simple decisions feel strangely complicated. This resistance is not proof that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that something is at stake. When timing matters, opposition often tries to create fog rather than confrontation. Subtlety is more effective than force. You may also experience a renewed awareness of responsibility. Not burden, but ownership. You begin to sense that your choices matter more than usual. This is because the decree is connected to your authority. Heaven is reminding you that you are not merely observing life. You are participating in its direction. Archangel Michael's involvement often brings a heightened sense of order. You may feel drawn to clean, organize, or simplify. This is not coincidence. Order in the natural realm often mirrors alignment in the spirit realm. When a decree is nearing activation, chaos is reduced so clarity can increase. Another overlooked sign is peace in the middle of uncertainty. Even when you do not fully understand what is happening, there is a calm beneath the questions. This peace is not complacency, it is assurance. It is heaven's way of saying that awareness has arrived on time. Many people miss these signs because they are waiting for something dramatic. They expect a loud announcement, a visible sign, or an unmistakable event. But heaven often speaks in whispers when timing is involved. Loudness can attract fear, quiet draws attention. Recognizing these signs does not mean you have already activated the decree. It means the decree is active around you. Activation requires response, but recognition confirms proximity. You are not distant from this moment. You are standing inside it. Do not rush to label these signs or analyze them excessively. Simply acknowledge them. Awareness itself is alignment beginning to take shape. The more you resist, the heavy things may feel. The more you acknowledge, the clearer things become. Right now, the fact that you are listening, reflecting, and sensing confirms that the decree is still within reach. Heaven does not reveal signs after expiration. Revelation precedes outcome, and you are receiving revelation now. Let this understanding settle without pressure. You are not late. You are not early. You are on time. And when the moment comes to respond fully, clarity will meet courage. This is how heaven prepares before it moves. Beloved one, there is a truth few people are prepared to hear, yet heaven speaks it with compassion and clarity. When a divine window is missed, life does not end, but it does become heavier. Not because God withdraws love, and not because mercy disappears, but because timing carries momentum. When momentum is lost, progress requires more effort than it was originally meant to require. This is why heaven warns before a window closes, not after. Missing a divine window does not mean the decree was false. It means the expression of the decree changes. What could have unfolded naturally begins to require struggle. What could have been resolved quietly begins to echo repeatedly. What could have been corrected early begins to demand deeper restructuring later. Heaven still remains faithful, but the path becomes longer. Many people assume that if something is truly meant for them, it will happen no matter what. That belief sounds comforting, but it ignores divine order. Purpose is promised, but process is conditional. Timing determines the ease or difficulty of the journey. When timing is honored, things flow. When timing is ignored, things still move, but with resistance. This is why some people look back and say, "If only I had listened sooner." Not because they were rejected, but because they were warned. Heaven had spoken, but distraction delayed response. And when response is delayed long enough, the window closes, not out of anger, but out of sequence. When a divine window is missed, confusion often increases. Decisions that once felt clear begin to feel clouded. Direction becomes harder to discern. Not because guidance is gone, but because alignment has shifted. It is like trying to walk against the wind. Progress is still possible, but effort multiplies. Another consequence is repetition. The same lessons appear again and again in different forms. The same types of challenges resurface under new names. This repetition is not punishment. It is mercy attempting to restore alignment through alternative routes. Heaven repeats what was once avoidable because it still desires restoration. Delayed alignment can also affect relationships and environments. People meant to walk with you for a season may drift because timing no longer matches. Doors that once opened easily may resist. This is not loss. It is recalibration. But recalibration takes time, and time is the very thing a time decree was meant to preserve. There is also an internal cost. When awareness is given and not acted upon, the spirit grows heavier. Not condemned, but burdened. Responsibility unfulfilled weighs differently than ignorance. This is why some people feel tired without reason. Their spirit knows something was postponed that should have been addressed. Archangel Michael's role in these moments is often misunderstood. He does not abandon when a window closes. He reassigns. He shifts strategy. What was once guarded through prevention may now require correction. Prevention is always gentler than repair, which is why heaven emphasizes timing so strongly. Missing a window does not remove divine protection, but it may change how protection manifests. Instead of avoiding certain outcomes, you may be preserved through them. Instead of being redirected early, you may be guided through complexity. God remains faithful, but the route becomes more demanding. This is why heaven speaks before expiration. Not to threaten, but to invite cooperation. Cooperation with timing reduces strain. Resistance increases it. And often, resistance is not intentional. It is simply distraction. You must understand this clearly. Heaven does not rush people unnecessarily. If urgency is present, it is because something truly matters. Time decrees are not common. They are issued when stakes are high enough that delay would cause unnecessary complication. Many people live carrying burdens they were never meant to carry, simply because they missed a moment of alignment. They still move forward. They still grow. But they often wonder why things feel harder than they should. The answer is not lack of faith. It is mistiming. This is not spoken to create regret. Regret looks backward. This is spoken to create clarity. Clarity looks forward. You are being informed while the window is still open. That alone changes everything. Heaven is not saying this to shame you. Heaven is saying this to help you choose wisely. Awareness is a gift. Timing is a tool. When used together, they preserve peace, direction, and strength. Right now, you are not being warned of doom. You are being offered discernment. You are being shown the cost of delay so you can avoid it, not fear it. Fear paralyzes. Discernment empowers. There are still moments ahead where alignment can occur smoothly. There are still opportunities for ease rather than strain. But ease requires attentiveness. And attentiveness begins with recognizing the value of now. This is why this message carries weight. Not because something bad will happen, but because something good can be protected. Heaven always speaks to preserve before it speaks to repair. And you are still within reach of preservation. Beloved one, understanding that a decree exists is not the same as responding to it. Heaven reveals timing because timing demands cooperation. A time decree is not activated by emotion, and it is not sustained by curiosity. It is activated through alignment, and alignment always begins with a conscious response. What heaven is asking of you right now is not dramatic action, but deliberate positioning. The first and most critical response is inner acknowledgement. This is the moment you stop treating this message as information and begin treating it as instruction. Inner acknowledgement happens when you say within yourself, "This applies to me, and I will not ignore it." That quiet decision carries weight in the spirit realm. Heaven recognizes internal shifts long before external movement occurs. Many people delay because they are waiting for confirmation, but awareness itself is confirmation when timing is involved. The second response is surrender of control over timing. Humans often want to respond on their own schedule, believing obedience can be postponed without consequence. But a time decree does not wait for convenience. Surrender here does not mean loss of agency. It means alignment with sequence. It means trusting that heaven's sense of urgency is rooted in protection, not pressure. When you release your need to fully understand before responding, clarity begins to unfold naturally. The third response is attentiveness to redirection. During this stage, heaven often speaks through subtle adjustments rather than loud instructions. You may feel prompted to slow down a decision, delay a commitment, or revisit something you previously dismissed. These nudges are not obstacles. They are course corrections. Ignoring them can lead you slightly off sequence, which over time creates larger misalignment. Another vital response is reduction of noise. When timing is critical, distraction becomes costly. You may notice a desire to pull back from unnecessary conversations, reduce media intake, or spend more time in quiet reflection. This is not withdrawal. It is refinement. Heaven refines focus before releasing movement. Clarity requires space. Archangel Michael's involvement during this phase is protective and stabilizing. His presence does not mean battle. It means order is being enforced. As you align, some things may resist leaving your life. That resistance is not proof of error. It is proof that alignment is disrupting patterns that no longer fit the timeline. Trust the process. What resists alignment cannot accompany you forward. Practical agreement matters as well. Heaven often uses visible actions as markers of alignment. When you like this message, comment in agreement, or share it, you are not engaging with content, you are responding to timing. Engagement becomes a signal. It says, I have seen this, and I choose to acknowledge it. But acknowledgement has spiritual consequence. Staying connected is another form of response. Subscribing to this channel is not about numbers. It is about continuity. Heaven often releases information in sequence. Disconnection leads to missed context. Remaining connected ensures you receive what you need while the window is still open. Joining the community through membership is not obligation. It is positioning yourself within a stream where alignment is being taught and reinforced. Support also carries significance. When you invest in what is feeding you spiritually, you are aligning resources with revelation. Heaven honors those who recognize value while timing is active. Supporting this mission is not charity, it is participation. It allows the message to reach others whose windows may be even narrower than yours. Another essential response is restraint. Timed moments require controlled movement, not impulsive reaction. You may feel urgency, but urgency does not mean haste. Acting too quickly without alignment can create missteps. Heaven moves precisely. Patience during this stage is not delay. It is discipline. Discipline preserves momentum. Prayer during this phase must shift in nature. Instead of asking for outcomes, ask for alignment. Instead of asking what is coming, ask what needs adjusting now. Heaven responds quickly to listening hearts. Silence becomes a tool. Stillness becomes instruction. This is where many miss their moment, by filling silence instead of honoring it. You may also sense the need to release something that once felt important. This could be an expectation, a plan, or an attachment that no longer fits the timeline. Letting go is not loss. It is preparation. Time decrees often require space to manifest fully. What you release makes room for what is being preserved. Do not underestimate the power of simple obedience. Alignment does not always look spiritual on the surface. It often looks like practical adjustment, quiet decision-making, and intentional focus. Heaven measures faithfulness differently than humans do. A single aligned decision can prevent years of unnecessary struggle later. As you respond, be gentle with yourself. Awareness has arrived, but adjustment takes grace. Heaven is not demanding perfection. It is recognizing willingness. Every step taken in alignment strengthens the decree's activation. And before you move on, pause for a moment. There is a deeper truth about how your voice, your words, and your agreement activate what heaven has already decided. What you are about to understand will reshape how you see your role in this moment. So keep listening, because this is where alignment turns into authority. Beloved one, there is a dimension of this decree that cannot activate without you, no matter how powerful heaven's decision already is. It is the role of your voice. In the spirit realm, silence is not neutral. Words are not merely sounds, they are carriers of authority. And when a decree is timed, the spoken response of the one whose name is written on it becomes the key that turns the lock. From the beginning, heaven established a law of utterance. What is spoken on earth has weight in the unseen realm. This is why decrees are issued with expectation of echo. Heaven speaks first, but it waits for alignment to be voiced. Not because God lacks power, but because authority on earth is released through human agreement. When your voice aligns with heaven's word, movement accelerates. Many people believe faith is something you feel. In truth, faith is something you declare. Feelings fluctuate, but declarations establish direction. A timed decree requires verbal agreement because words anchor intention. When you speak in alignment, you are not informing heaven. You are authorizing movement. This is why moments like this feel so personal. Your voice carries your jurisdiction. No one else can speak for you in this matter. No one else can agree on your behalf. Heaven has already decided, but heaven honors order. And order requires the one assigned to respond. You may notice that hesitation often shows up right before speaking. Doubt whispers questions. Thoughts suggest waiting. This resistance is subtle, not dramatic. It tries to keep agreement internal and unexpressed. But internal belief without expression delays activation. Silence keeps things pending. Archangel Michael is often present when declarations are required. He is not only a warrior, he is a witness. He stands as a recorder of alignment. When words are spoken in agreement, he enforces what has already been decided. When words are withheld, enforcement waits. This is not threat. It is structure. You do not need eloquent language. You do not need long prayers. What matters is sincerity and alignment. A simple declaration spoken with clarity carries more authority than elaborate words spoken without conviction. Heaven responds to alignment, not performance. This is why acknowledgement matters. Speaking out loud that you recognize this moment, that you receive this timing, that you choose alignment. These words create spiritual movement. They mark territory. They declare that this moment has been noticed and accepted. Your voice also sets boundaries. When you speak in alignment, you close certain doors without realizing it. Delays lose power. Confusion weakens. Resistance shifts. Words establish perimeter. This is why those who remain silent often feel exposed, while those who declare alignment feel peace even before circumstances change. There is also a personal strengthening that happens when you speak. Alignment spoken reinforces courage. Fear thrives in unspoken spaces. Clarity grows when words are released. This is not psychological. It is spiritual law. Words create structure where uncertainty once lived. Do not confuse speaking with striving. You are not trying to force an outcome. You are responding to one. The decree already exists. Your voice does not create it. Your voice activates its expression. This removes pressure. You are not responsible for the result, only the response. You may wonder when to speak and what to say. The answer is now, and the words are simple. Speak agreement. Speak recognition. Speak willingness. Even a whisper spoken with sincerity carries authority in the spirit realm. Volume does not determine power. Alignment does. Some people delay speaking because they fear saying the wrong thing. Heaven is not listening for perfection. Heaven is listening for consent. Consent authorizes movement. Silence withholds it. This is why public acknowledgement carries weight as well. When you comment, when you type words of agreement, when you allow your alignment to be visible, you are not performing. You are declaring. Declarations can be written or spoken. Both carry authority. Understand this clearly. Your voice is not small. It is assigned. It carries weight because your name is written on the decree. No one else's voice can substitute for yours in this moment. As you begin to speak in alignment, do not expect immediate fireworks. Expect internal settling first. Peace often precedes manifestation. Assurance often comes before movement. Heaven confirms alignment inwardly before it expresses outwardly. This is the shift from awareness to authority. Awareness recognizes timing. Authority responds to it. And your voice is the bridge between the two. What you are stepping into now is not pressure. It is partnership. Heaven has spoken. The decree stands. And your voice, when aligned, becomes the signal that allows enforcement to begin. Hold this truth gently, but firmly. You are not powerless here. You are positioned. And what you speak next matters more than you realize. Beloved one, whenever a time decree is released, opposition does not usually appear as something loud or obvious. It rarely comes as open resistance. Instead, it hides in subtle patterns designed to drain time rather than confront truth. This is why many people miss their moment without ever realizing they were opposed. The goal of hidden opposition is not to stop the decree, but to quietly run out the clock. One of the most common forms of this opposition is distraction. Loud sinful distraction, not dramatic diversion, but constant mental noise. Thoughts multiply. Focus scatters. Important things are postponed while trivial matters consume attention. This kind of distraction feels harmless, yet it is one of the most effective tools against timing. When attention is divided, awareness weakens, and response is delayed. Another form is exhaustion without clear cause. You may feel unusually tired even when nothing physically demanding has occurred. This fatigue is not always physical. It is often spiritual resistance pressing against alignment. When timing is critical, opposition attempts to wear down, resolve rather than challenge faith directly. Weariness makes delay feel reasonable. Procrastination is another subtle strategy. It whispers that there is more time than there actually is. It encourages waiting for a better moment, a clearer sign, or more certainty. Procrastination does not deny the decree. It simply postpones response until the window narrows. It feels rational, but it is costly. Doubt also plays a quiet role. Not loud disbelief, but gentle questioning. Thoughts like, is this really for me? Or maybe I can address this later. These thoughts do not feel dangerous, yet they weaken urgency. Doubt does not need to convince you that heaven is wrong. It only needs to convince you that timing is flexible. Emotional heaviness can also appear. Old feelings resurface. Past disappointments come back to memory. This is not coincidence. When alignment is near, Opposition often stirs unresolved emotions to anchor you in reflection rather than movement. Looking backward consumes time meant for forward response. Archangel Michael's presence during this phase is critical. He does not only confront visible threats, he exposes subtle interference. His role is to bring clarity where fog has been introduced. When you suddenly recognize distraction for what it is, that recognition itself is a form of protection. Exposure weakens opposition. Another tactic is false peace. This is the feeling that nothing needs to change, that everything can remain as it is. It is not true peace which brings clarity and readiness. False peace brings complacency. It numbs urgency. It convinces you that response can wait. This is one of the most dangerous forms of resistance because it feels comfortable. You may also notice increased interruptions from others. Unexpected demands on your time. Conversations that drain energy. These are not always intentional. Often, they are simply part of how distraction manifests. Not every interruption is opposition, but during timed moments, discernment becomes essential. Hidden opposition thrives when awareness weakens. That is why consistency matters now. Staying attentive, remaining connected, and guarding focus are not optional. They are protective measures. Heaven does not require fear, but it does require alertness. Understand this clearly. Opposition does not mean you are losing. It means the decree matters. Resistance appears where value exists. The presence of subtle opposition confirms significance. You not fight these tactics emotionally. Recognition is enough. When you name distraction, it loses power. When you identify procrastination, urgency returns. When you see false peace, true clarity rises. Light dismantles what darkness tries to conceal. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of your timeline. His assignment is not to rush you, but to protect the window. As long as you remain aware, the clock does not control you. You respond within it. This is not a moment to fear hidden opposition. It is a moment to outgrow it. Awareness elevates authority. When you see clearly, interference weakens naturally. Take this as reassurance. The decree is not expired. The exposure of opposition is proof that heaven is still guarding the moment. You are not too late. You are being strengthened to respond accurately. Let clarity replace confusion. Let focus replace fatigue. Let awareness replace delay. And now, as a seal over this understanding, declare this with confidence and calm. Type "My time is guarded" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 908 is now activated over your alignment. This moment is more than insight. It is an open door, and doors remain open when light keeps flowing. I am speaking directly to those whose spirit feels stirred to help carry this message beyond themselves, because every seed placed into God's work becomes light in someone else's darkness. The word says that those who water will themselves be watered, and right now, heaven is watching who responds while time still matters. As I speak, this is a personal invitation, an alignment moment, where your support through super thanks, membership, where the PayPal link in the description becomes part of the decree itself. You are not funding content. You are fueling access for souls who are still one message away from missing their window. I release blessing over every giver who responds without delay, and I declare that what you sow now will return with divine acceleration. Act now, and let your obedience become a shield for others. Beloved one, the moment alignment begins, something shifts quietly but decisively in the unseen realm. It is not always loud. It is not always dramatic, but it is real. When you align with a timed decree, the atmosphere around your life starts to reorganize. Things that felt heavy begin to loosen. Confusion that lingered without explanation starts to thin. This is because alignment restores flow, and flow changes everything. One of the first changes you may notice is an internal settling. Not because every question hath been answered, but because resistance has lost its grip. Alignment brings a sense of rightness, even before outcomes appear. This peace is not emotional comfort. It is spiritual confirmation. It signals that sequence has been restored. When sequence is restored, momentum follows naturally. Another change is clarity. Decisions that once felt overwhelming begin to simplify. You may not have every detail, but you know what not to do. This narrowing of focus is a gift. Heaven removes unnecessary options so attention can be directed toward what matters most. Clarity does not overwhelm, it streamlines. You may also notice that certain delays resolve on their own. Situations that seem stuck begin to move without force. This is not coincidence. When alignment is achieved, resistance loses its leverage. What required effort before now requires patience instead. Effort drains energy. Patience preserves it. Relationship may alter shift. Some connections deepen because timing aligns. Others may naturally distance without conflict. This is not loss. It is synchronization. Alignment does not isolate you. It places you among those who match the moment. Heaven rearranges proximity when timing matters. Another significant change is protection. When alignment is restored, certain problems never materialize. Issues you feared simply do not happen. This is often overlooked because prevention is invisible. But prevention is one of the greatest expressions of divine care. What you never had to face matters as much as what you overcame. Archangel Michael's role becomes more evident at this stage. Not as confrontation, but as enforcement. He ensures that what has been aligned remains guarded. This guarding is quiet. It feels like stability. It feels like things holding together even when circumstances are uncertain. That stability is not accidental. It is maintained. You may also experience renewed strength. Not sudden energy, but sustainable endurance. Alignment reduces internal conflict, and internal conflict is exhausting. When conflict dissolves, strength returns. This is why aligned seasons feel lighter even when responsibilities remain. Your perception of time may also change. Moments feel more purposeful. You become more present. This is because alignment sharpens awareness. You stop rushing through moments and start moving with intention. Time feels fuller, not faster. Another change is confidence without arrogance. You trust your steps more. Doubt loses its volume. This confidence does not come from knowing outcomes, it comes from knowing you are aligned. Alignment produces assurance that circumstances cannot provide. Do not be surprised if opportunities appear subtly. Not grand openings, but small invitations. Alignment often reveals next steps incrementally. Heaven rarely shows the entire path at once. It reveals enough to move forward without overwhelming you. You may also notice that your voice carries more weight. When you speak, words land differently. This is because alignment amplifies authority. Authority does not shout, it resonates. Others may respond to you without knowing why. This is not dominance, it is clarity. There is also a change in how challenges feel. Problems still exist, but they do not intimidate the same way. Alignment reframes obstacles as temporary rather than defining. You stop interpreting challenges as signs of failure and start seeing them as parts of process. Understand this. Alignment does not eliminate effort. It removes unnecessary struggle. There is a difference. Struggle drains, effort builds. Aligned effort produces growth without depletion. You may be tempted to look for dramatic confirmation. Resist that urge. Confirmation often comes through consistency rather than spectacle. The fact that things begin to hold rather than fall apart is confirmation enough. Another subtle shift is gratitude. You find yourself appreciating small things more. This is not sentimentality. Gratitude is alignment recognizing preservation. It acknowledges what have been secured rather than what was almost lost. As alignment deepens, fear loses urgency. It may still appear, but it no longer dictates movement. You act despite uncertainty, not because of certainty. This is mature alignment. They trust timing more than circumstances. You not rush to explain these changes. Let them unfold. Awareness combined with patience allows alignment to solidify. Premature analysis can disrupt flow. Observation is enough. What you are experiencing now is not the end of the decree. It is its expression beginning to take shape. Expression unfolds over time, but the direction has been secured. Hold this truth gently. Alignment does not mean perfection. It means positioning. Positioned people are not spared from effort, but they are spared from unnecessary detours. As you continue forward, remember this moment. Remember that clarity came when you responded, not before. This will help you trust timing again in the future. Heaven has done its part. You have done yours. And now, movement is no longer resisted. It is supported. This is what changes when alignment is chosen. Beloved one, even after alignment has begun and clarity has returned, there is a final and very subtle danger that can weaken everything that has been activated, and that danger is delay. Delay does not announce itself loudly. It does not feel rebellious or negative. Most of the time, delay feels reasonable. It feels like caution. It feels like waiting for better conditions. But when a decree is timed, delay quietly drains momentum, and momentum is the very force that carries alignment forward. Heaven understands movement in ways humans often overlook. Movement is not about speed, it is about continuity. When a timed decree is activated, it begins to unfold like a current. That current must keep flowing, or it begins to thin. Not because heaven withdraws, but because alignment requires cooperation over time. One moment of agreement opens the door, but continued responsiveness keeps the door from slowly closing again. Delay often enters through hesitation disguised as wisdom. Thoughts arise that sound mature and careful. I should wait until I feel more confident, or I'll respond once things settle down. These thoughts are not always wrong in ordinary seasons, but in a timed moment, they quietly work against sequence. Timing does not wait for comfort. It waits for response. Another form of delay is emotional relief. When peace returns after alignment, many people assume the work is finished. They relax into the absence of pressure and stop paying attention. But relief is not completion. Relief is confirmation that resistance has lifted. Movement is still required. When people stop responding because things feel better, momentum slows, and the decree begins to lose forward force. This is why heaven emphasizes consistency after alignment. Consistency protects what hath been activated. Small daily choices now carry more weight than before. What you focus on, what you entertain, what you postpone. These decisions shape whether alignment deepens or stagnates. Archangel Michael's role at this stage is not confrontation but reinforcement. He strengthens what is maintained, not what is abandoned. He guards structure, and structure requires participation. When participation weakens, structure loosens. Not abruptly, but gradually. You may notice that opportunities to respond are now appearing more frequently. Not dramatic opportunities, but subtle ones. Invitations to speak when you would normally stay silent. Nudges to act when you would normally wait. Prompts to adjust habits, priorities, or schedules. These are not random. They are opportunities to sustain alignment. Delay also manifests as distraction returning in quieter forms. Not overwhelming noise, but gentle drift. Time passes without intentional response. Days fill up without alignment, being reinforced. This kind of drift is dangerous because it feels harmless. But in time seasons, drift equals delay. This is why engagement matters more now than before. When you like this message, comment in agreement, or share it, you are not interacting casually, you are reinforcing awareness. Interaction keeps alignment active. Silence allows drift. Engagement is a form of remembrance. Sharing this message is especially important. There are people connected to you who will not recognize their moment unless someone brings awareness to them. When you share, you become part of heaven's extension. You help prevent delay in someone else's life while strengthening clarity in your own. Remaining connected by subscribing is also a guard against delay. Time seasons unfold through continued insight. When people disconnect, they often lose context and begin to question what they already recognized. Staying connected preserves sequence and keeps understanding fresh. For some, joining membership is a stabilizing response. It is not about access or status. It is about commitment. Commitment anchors attention. Attention sustains alignment. When attention is anchored, drift loses power. Supporting his mission also matters during his stage. Support is not separate from obedience. When you invest in what is feeding you spiritually, you reinforce its value in your life. Value sharpens focus. Focus protects timing. Heaven honors those who respond while the window is still active. Another form of delay is overthinking. Revisiting decisions that have already been settled. Replaying questions that were already answered. Overthinking creates mental loops that stall movement. Alignment does not require constant evaluation. It requires trust in what has already been recognized. Comparison is another quiet delay. Looking at others and questioning whether your pace is correct. Your timeline is not theirs. Your decree is specific. Comparison introduces confusion where clarity already existed. Understand this clearly. You are not required to do everything at once. You are required to do what is next. Heaven reveals steps in sequence, not all at once. Those who wait for full visibility often miss their moment entirely. The way forward now is simple responsiveness. When you sense a prompt, respond. When you sense a pause, honor it. When you sense confirmation, move with it. Complexity is not required. Faithfulness is. And before you move forward, let this settle deeply. You are being reminded now not because you are failing, but because what you are carrying is valuable. Delay is subtle, but awareness dismantles it. Remain attentive here, because what you are about to recognize next will remove lingering doubt and confirm that your alignment has truly been seen and secured. Beloved one, confirmation does not always arrive the way people expect it to. Many wait for signs so loud they cannot be ignored, while heaven often confirms alignment through quiet certainty. This is because true confirmation is not meant to impress the senses. It is meant to settle the spirit. When your name hath been called and your response hath been recognized, the first evidence is not external change, but internal assurance. One of the clearest confirmations is a deep sense of recognition. Not excitement, not fear, but a calm knowing that says, "This is for me." This knowing does not argue. It does not need to prove itself. He simply rests. That rest is not passivity, it is alignment finding its place. When something is truly confirmed, it no longer needs to shout for attention. Another confirmation appears as consistency of clarity. You may notice that your understanding no longer wavers the way it did before. Doubt may still attempt to speak, but it no longer feels convincing. Questions arise, but they do not destabilize you. This stability is not stubbornness. It is grounding. Heaven anchors what it confirms. You may also experience confirmation through peace that remains even when circumstances do not immediately change. This peace is not denial. It is assurance that timing is now secured. When the decree was pending, peace came and went. Now, it lingers. That lingering peace is a seal. Sometimes confirmation shows up through alignment in unexpected conversations. Words spoken by others echo what you already sensed internally. Not because they know your situation, but because alignment creates resonance. Heaven often confirms privately what it has already established personally. Another form of confirmation is restraint being lifted. Before alignment, certain actions felt blocked or heavy. Now, they feel neutral or open. Not rushed, but no longer resisted. Resistance lifting is often misunderstood as coincidence, but it is one of the most reliable indicators of confirmation. When resistance ends, flow begins. You may also notice a shift in how you view past delays. Instead of frustration, there is understanding. You see how timing preserved you, redirected you, or prepared you. This reframing is not revisionist thinking. It is perspective returning. Confirmation often heals interpretation of the past. Archangel Michael's role at this stage is quiet reinforcement. He does not announce confirmation loudly. He maintains it. Stability, protection, and order are his signatures. When things hold together despite uncertainty, that is enforcement at work. What could have unraveled does not. What could have escalated settles. This is not chance. Another sign of confirmation is renewed trust in your own discernment. You stop second-guessing every internal nudge. You become more comfortable responding without excessive analysis. This trust is not arrogance. It is familiarity with alignment. When you recognize how heaven speaks to you, confidence grows naturally. You may also feel less urgency to explain yourself to others. When alignment is confirmed, external validation becomes unnecessary. You move quietly, intentionally, without needing approval. This inward anchoring is a sign that authority has been internalized. Confirmation can also appear as patience replacing anxiety. You are no longer counting days or measuring outcomes obsessively. You trust sequence. You know movement is unfolding even when it is not visible. This patience is not waiting, it is resting in order. Do not expect confirmation to remove every challenge. Challenges still exist, but their meaning changes. They no longer feel like threats to timing, but parts of process. This shift in interpretation is one of the strongest confirmations of all. Many people miss confirmation because they are looking for drama. Heaven often confirms through simplicity. Things feel aligned. Decisions feel cleaner. Focus feels sharper. These are not small signs. They are foundational ones. You may also notice that fear loses its authority. It may still speak, but it no longer directs. Fear becomes background noise rather than a steering wheel. This loss of influence indicates that alignment has taken root. Another subtle confirmation is gratitude arising without effort. You find yourself thankful without forcing it. Gratitude is alignment recognizing preservation. It acknowledges what hath been secured rather than what was almost lost. If you are wondering whether your name was truly called, consider this. Confirmation brings responsibility without pressure. You feel accountable but not burdened. You feel aware but not anxious. This balance does not come from imagination. It comes from alignment being sealed. Do not rush to move ahead of confirmation, and do not linger questioning it. Receive it simply. Acceptance strengthens what has been secured. Right now, you are not waiting for heaven's response. Heaven has already responded. What you are experiencing is recognition catching up with reality. Let this understanding settle. Let assurance replace uncertainty. Let trust replace questioning. Your name was called. Your response was seen. And what has been aligned is now being maintained. My beloved child, this is the moment where everything that was spoken, revealed, and stirred within you comes to rest in assurance. Not the kind of rest that forgets, but the kind that knows. The decree that once carried urgency now carries authority. The timing that once demanded attention now releases peace. What began as an interruption has become alignment, and what was once a warning has now transformed into divine covering. A time decree does not conclude with fear or pressure. It concludes with order. Heaven never leaves a soul suspended in uncertainty after obedience had been given. When alignment is achieved, heaven establishes maintenance. This is the phase you are stepping into now. Not a phase of striving, not a phase of watching the clock, but a phase of being held within divine structure. This is where Archangel Michael's role becomes steady and constant. He no longer stands as the announcer of urgency, but as the guardian of what hath been sealed. His presence now manifests as stability. Things hold together when they should have fallen apart. Decisions do not spiral the way they once did. Even when challenges arise, they no longer threaten collapse. That is not coincidence. That is enforcement. You may notice that the anxiety you once felt about missing something has lifted. You are no longer scanning for signs with desperation. You are no longer questioning every thought. This is not because you stopped caring. It is because assurance has replaced urgency. Heaven does not keep those it has aligned in a constant state of tension. It establishes peace as confirmation. This is also where trust matures. Earlier, trust was an act of faith. Now, trust becomes a posture. You trust timing without monitoring it. You trust direction without demanding proof. This trust does not come from circumstances, it comes from alignment being sealed. When heaven finishes speaking, it leaves behind clarity, not confusion. Understand this clearly. Many things have already been preserved that you will never fully see. There were outcomes that never formed, paths that never opened, and complications that never materialized. Prevention rarely announces itself. But just because you cannot see what with block does not mean it was not real. Preservation is one of heaven's quietest miracles. As you move forward, your responsibility is no longer to respond urgently, but to steward faithfully. Stewardship looks ordinary. It looks like consistency. It looks like humility. It looks like remaining attentive without becoming anxious. This is where many people misunderstand spiritual maturity. They think intensity proves faith. In reality, stability proves alignment. You are not required to explain this season to everyone. Some things are not meant to be translated into words. Alignment speaks over time through peace, direction, and fruit. Let results speak louder than explanation. Let stability tell the story. In future moments of uncertainty, remember this foundation. Remember that heaven spoke before you understood. Remember that you responded while timing mattered. Remember that order was restored not by force, but by alignment. That memory will anchor you when emotions fluctuate or circumstances shift. This is not the end of movement. It is the beginning of sustainable direction. You are no longer reacting to urgency. You are moving within order. You are no longer racing against time. You are walking with it. And hear this with clarity and assurance. Heaven does not revoke what it seals. What has been aligned is now maintained. What has been guarded will continue to be guarded. What has been activated will unfold in sequence. You are not late. You are not behind. You are positioned. Let gratitude rise gently, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is held. Let peace remain, not because nothing will challenge you, but because challenges will no longer define you. Let confidence grow, not because you know the future, but because you trust the one who holds it. This decree no longer hangs over you as a warning. It rests over you as a covering. And now, as a final seal over everything you have received, speak this declaration with calm authority and faith. Type "I walk in divine order" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 1129 is now sealed and active over your life. This message did not come to you by accident, and it is not meant to stop with you. I am speaking to those whose spirit feels the weight of responsibility for others who may still be unaware that time is running out. The word declares that those who sow into the work of God release light into places they may never visit, and right now, souls are waiting for access. I hear the Lord say this is personal. This invitation is not general. It is directed, because your obedience can place this message into hands that may never find it otherwise. When you support this mission through Super Thanks membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are partnering with heaven to keep the window open for others. I release blessing over every giver, declaring open heavens, protected families, restored strength, and divine acceleration over what you place into God's hands. Do not delay. Respond now, and let your obedience become someone else's moment of alignment.